Family of country music royalty, granddaughter of legend, Loretta Lynn, Tayla Lynn.
Nobody's ever asked me that question. That is I've never even asked myself that.
So many people never have the opportunity to untangle and carry with them about
so true.
It must have been me. I did something. What did I do to cause this?
He picked me up and punted me down the hall. That was their wedding night.
Your stepdad did that?
Yes.
Wow.
So that was probably why I would think I was the catalyst for it. Kind of hit and run the next day. Got held up by a sawed-off shotgun, and he stole my car. I went to 7 rehabs. I still have work to do around it because I'm in trouble. I'm the one that did something wrong. I deserve this. Had I not done that behavior, I have to reset and use the tools that I have and go, okay, what's the truth? Now I'm questioning kind of everything during this podcast. To be loved, I must love. Maybe it's still that message there for that too. I don't know. It's not opening an old wound. It's like, oh my God, I can't wait to explore this more because maybe this is where I'm at. This is the piece. Now it's time for that piece that I didn't even know.
And that's what healing is all about.
I'm walking away even clearer. I mean, what you're doing here is magical. I mean, it's really eye-opening.
Why do we allow that to put the value on the story of your life?
Yeah.
It's not just you.
Totally. I have no idea why I'm crying, but I can feel your spirit, when in the calmness. So this is really beautiful. Just, can we take a moment of silence?
Mm-hmm.
You have so many smart people on here that I'm worried that this isn't going to be like a smart one. You're smart all the time though, right? So that'll be good.
Uh-huh. What's going to happen if you're not?
Well, I won't be smart.
Okay.
But I mean, I hope that there's anything interesting coming. I was stalking you last night. You have a lot of different great looks. And I contacted any of your friends that we had mutually on Instagram just to see what was going to happen today.
Oh my gosh.
Nobody knew.
Nobody knew because I'm unpredictable, just as unpredictable as my looks over the years.
I love all your looks.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's get this going.
Let's get serious.
This is Rooted Recovery Stories. I'm Patrick Custer here in Nashville, Tennessee. So excited to be here for yet another episode with a absolutely tremendous, wonderful individual. Comes from a family of country music royalty. Granddaughter of legend, Loretta Lynn, Tayla Lynn.
Hi.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm not making fun of your country accent. I am embodying the spirit of country.
All right, so I enjoyed that.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Where are you from?
Brentwood.
Are you friends with Hugh?
Nash?
Hauser.
Oh, I don't think so.
Okay, after this.
Okay. Shout out to you, Hauser, wherever you are out there, Hugh. Apparently you're a great guy.
Oh, you're going to love.
Or a person. Okay, so.
Either way, all of it.
Have you lived here your whole life?
Yes, I'm from Franklin.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've lived in Franklin and my mom's from Franklin, so.
But now you live out on the ranch, no?
Yes. I live about an hour and a half west of Nashville at the Loretta Lynn Ranch. Yes.
Wonderful. How long have you lived there?
10 years.
Awesome. I've never been out there, believe it or not. And I've lived here my whole life. So I feel like it's time.
Are you outdoorsy?
Yes. Surprisingly, you wouldn't guess that.
No, I mean, I don't know.
You wouldn't guess that.
Well, it wouldn't be my first thought.
No.
I had to ask if you were outdoors. But you have a dog. You could bring your little dog out there now and y'all could run around on the creek bed. It would be so fun.
Now I want to go horseback riding.
Yeah, come on.
Okay, I'm going to come. So when did Loretta start that ranch?
They moved there in the 60s. My grandparents and the kids moved there in the 60s. She loved the home. It looks it's like an old antebellum home. And she just loved the house. And fans would come. They would find out where she was living. And they would start camping. And so my grandfather was like, let's turn it into a business and turn it into a campground where the fans have somewhere to stay. And so it turned into sort of like a campground area. And then in 1982, this huge motorcycle event called motocross came. And that's when it started really exploding. We have 30,000 people out there in August for motocross every year.
How big is the ranch?
It's 3,500 acres.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we have concerts, and we just had the chuck wagon races, and we have a couple of motorcycle events, Jeep events, all the time.
What's your favorite thing that
we do, the events?
Yeah.
I am particularly fond of this event called Tennessee Motorcycle and Music Revival. And it's lots of good music. Nikki Lane was out there last year. We've had Yellow Wolf, Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top. Just all kinds of great artists have come out.
So fun.
Yeah, super fun.
I'm thinking about all the things I want to talk to you about today, and I'm like, where to start? Y'all, we're gonna if you're listening, just get ready, buckle up, because we're gonna be all over the place.
No, I'm gonna try to really focus in on you. I'm a little bit nervous. It's very like white in here, and it's bright.
Yeah.
And so I'm feeling kind of on the spot. So I hope that I can show up in a real way too.
I have a feeling you're right where you're supposed to be. So let me encourage that moment here for you. Take me back to being a little girl. Your earliest memory, growing up in the family that you did. Was your earliest recollection of life around music?
No. So my parents got divorced when I was a baby. And my dad was on the road with Meemaw, Loretta Lynn, and my mom and her family, who I grew up with, they were all in Franklin. So even though it was so close, nobody in Franklin, where I grew up, we never talked about Meemaw being my grandmother. I mean, I knew that. I would go see her. But the music part of it was like in the summers when I would go out on the road with them during like a festival or whatever. So I grew up really like down home. Franklin was a little town back then. It was nothing like it. You're from,
Yeah.
And so it was totally different. We're just small town. Everybody knew everybody. And that was really how I grew up. It wasn't in the music scene. That wasn't until I was older, like an older teenager.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
So that's when you got involved with music, or?
So when my grandfather passed away, Doolittle, Loretta's husband, I was like, I can't remember how old, 18, 19 or something. And that's when I moved in with her and then started touring with her. So that's when the like music career, I always was on and off the road with her, but that's when I started doing it like professionally.
Yeah. What did, as far as music is concerned, do you remember, because everybody talks about what music does for them differently, and I think it's so beautiful. Do you remember like early on how music made you feel? Like what did it do for you?
Yeah. Well, my mom was a singer too, like not professionally, but we sang all the time. And I think that's how we always found joy and how we expressed ourselves. I always sang. So you did say, has music always been in your life? But I guess I just always think when somebody asks me that, it's like, has Loretta Lynn, has the music business always been in your life? And it hasn't. But music has always been a huge part of our lives. Because my mom, I mean, we would get in the car and sing, what is that, In the Jungle, Wingo Whip? We all had parts, and that's just, my mom was a young mom.
How
and
fun.
So it was just fun. Yeah.
It's interesting that when I ask that question, you immediately go to the music business side of things. And because it's understandable, but also there's so much, because when I talk to people that are either in the music industry, very famous themselves, or in a very famous family, whatever. I feel like there is the private side of music and what they cherish, and like sometimes they let people understand and know that side of, and then there's what you were talking about, like the public.
Well, I think, so my aunt, who was like my sister growing up, my mom's sister, she watched a podcast that I did recently, and it was upsetting to her because she felt like I wasn't being completely authentic. Not that I wasn't telling the truth, but like the focus usually is on Loretta Lynn because that's, a big part of what I do and who I am. But I had this whole life that was so separate from Loretta Lynn, that I was with her and my mom and my brother and my sister and my granny and my Aunt Bill, that was, in downtown Franklin over here, that had nothing to even do with that part until I was older. And so I'm trying to I was mad at her, and she's going to be like, I cannot believe you're sharing this, but whatever. I was kind of mad at her because I was like, but that is the truth. Because it can be both, right? It can be all of these things. So I think I just try to like, when you say that, like I'm just trying to be so honest and authentic now about also that part of my life, even if it's on a forum like this where, you know what I'm saying?
Well, no, the reason why I asked that is because it's interesting to me on how, like, what the impression for you is, what comes to mind first when I ask that question.
Yeah.
And you go immediately to the very public facing, music business side. And when in actuality, I want to know, what did it do for you? What was the inside of your life like?
Yeah,
so I'm asking about that former part that you were just talking about with your parents and Franklin and I think that it really speaks to how we are so driven to what does publicity want? What does what is the most famous part of your story or your connection to a story or whatever? And why do we allow that to put the value on the story of your life?
Yeah.
It's not just you.
Totally. Yeah.
So
I have no idea why I'm crying. I think you're so precious.
Thank you.
And we were kidding around, but I can feel your spirit, when in the calmness. So this is really beautiful.
Good.
Yeah.
That's my hope and prayer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that.
So tell us about the other side. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, what does that mean? Ask it different.
Yeah.
Say it different.
All right. So when you were a little girl, what were the things that you remember making you happy?
Well, I grew up at my grandmother's house, Granny Margaret Westbrooks. I grew up there, and my grandfather owned the Shell station at exit 65 in Franklin, I-65, next to the Waffle House. So Royal Oaks.
At 96.
65 South, at 96.
Okay.
So, honey, we grew up.
I'm like, there's like 5 Franklin exits now, so which one are you talking about?
It's exit 65, 96, at the hospital.
Yes.
And so we grew up in the back of the gas station, going to Waffle House every day. My mom waited tables, and we found so much joy. And she would take us down to Panama City Beach back when it was the Redneck Riviera, and that we had so much joy there. We had a pool at Granny's, and my brother was my best friend, and we had bean bags, and we had one of the first big screen TVs at Granny's. We were redneck rich. My parents started owning a record service.
Was it the kind of big screen that had the what?
It was a console that came up. It could be either a buffet table or it would come up.
What year was this, in the 90s?
No, Patrick. No.
What?
It was in the early 80s.
Okay. Well,
I'm in my 40s.
I'm not great at math. B, you look great for your age.
I get a lot of Botox, a ton of Botox. Sometimes I can't even drink out of a straw because I get too much around my mouth. And the people of Facebook love to let me know when I've had too much stuff done or if I'm singing off key or too loud. Thank you.
Really? On Facebook?
Oh my God. It's always.
No.
They're mean. There are some mean cats out there.
I know. It's really unreal.
And the hillbilly in me wants to cuss them out, but I just kill them I'm just so kind.
Bless your heart.
I know. I love you. I send them love and light usually with sparkles.
Metaphorically, or you type that?
I type out a sparkle. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Love and light sparkle, and it's the sparkle.
Oh, that's great.
Sending you lots of love.
I'm going to know what that means from now on.
Oh, if you see sparkles on comments, you know that I want to beat them up.
I'm never going to see the sparkle emoji again and not think of you.
I thank you. I want to kill somebody.
I'm going to start calling that emoji the bless your heart.
Yeah, that's it.
That's the bless your heart emoji.
That's all there is.
Oh my gosh. So it sounds like you had a wonderful, tight-knit, close family with just such great memories.
We did. Yeah, we did. I mean, we also had my mother loved to date. God rest her soul. She's been dead 6 years this month. And she was very open about this. I was open when she was alive. She loved to date. So depending on who she was dating.
Did your parents separate?
When I was born, they got divorced right then.
Okay.
So they were married for 4 years. They fell in love when she was 12. her best friend is, we're country, okay? And not Brentwood country. We are like, okay.
I'm ready for it. Tell me, let's hear out.
So, oh God, this won't even make any sense. Nobody's even going to care about this. Granny and Granddaddy were married and got divorced, and my grandfather moved to Waverly. So when my mom would go visit her dad in Waverly, she met Loretta and Dew's daughter, Sissy. And so Sissy and mom, Loretta's daughter, and my mom became best friends, and she would go over and spend the night. And my dad and mom fell in love when they were like 12 years old. They met at a coon hunter's party. And yes. And so they fell in love there. And so I don't know when, but I was born when they were like 20. So they got married when they were like 18.
Okay.
And then they got divorced when they were like 22 or something. But mama always remained, they were always best friends, mom and dad. And mom was always in Loretta's life. And I don't even know.
She loved dating so much. She was like, I can't stop.
I'm not going to stop for you,
right?
Arnie.
So thanks.
Well, she was always in love with dad till the day she died. Just like loved him deeply, but they were just crazy and young, and so depending on who mom dated, that's kind of what our world looked like.
Wait, I have a question. How old were you when you're married, right?
Yes.
How old were you when you got married?
35.
Okay, so then I can say this without offending you, and I hope I don't offend anybody. That I'm just going to say it. I can't imagine, because my parents my parents are 80, and they did the thing that you did back then, which was you get married in college. Mm-mm. I cannot imagine getting married at 20, 19, 20. Gosh. I can't imagine getting married at 24.
No.
Like when I think about the train wreck I was, not even just because I was not sober yet, but like.
You have no idea who you are.
No. And I think back and I'm like, no wonder people, a marriage that started at that age didn't work. But I applaud the people like my parents that have stayed together through it all and started. I mean, like,
good for them.
There can be miracles, like Mariah Carey said. Whoa, what was that face? Well, that was if you're not watching, that was I don't know her face. Like,
I do know Mariah Carey. Are you kidding me?
But it was like, I
loved it that you busted out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's like a bust out thing.
That was a bad facial read then.
No. Oh, yeah. You didn't. Well, it's because I have so much Botox. It's probably like only one side of my face clicked. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, it probably had a tick to it.
I love it. Could you do it again if I asked you?
I don't know. I mean, it goes wherever it wants to. I'm thinking about getting all the filler and stuff dissolved and just starting back over, but I'm afraid it'll hurt too much.
Okay, so can I tell you what I know about that?
Okay, yeah.
You might already know this, but the stuff that dissolves filler, this is so not what we're supposed to talk about, but whatever.
This is about recovery because you gotta feel good about yourself.
That's right. It's the whole body.
We're rooted in it. It is rooted into my lips. It is rooted.
That is so right.
It has grown roots there.
So, and all my esthetician friends, half of them are going to curse me and half of them are going to be like, good job. You should tell them, Patrick. So I think, I can't remember what it's called, but the stuff that dissolves filler is meant to, it causes hyaluronic acid in your body to basically dissolve and drain.
Okay.
Well, we already have pre-existing hyaluronic acid in our body that like poofs out we have less of it. We produce less of it as time goes on. Okay. And that's why like we get synthetic, some people, I will not say whether or not I have any, but yeah, so people get it to replace, right? And it plumps it up. But the stuff that melts it doesn't just target synthetic. So that's why it's so important that if you're going to get it, that you get it from somebody who knows what they're doing. So they literally are putting that specifically where your filler is. If they get it off at all, it's going to melt away what you have that's your natural.
Forget it.
Right.
I'll just let it wear down and start over.
I mean, the only way I would say melt it off is if you like
had an accident.
Well, yeah. I mean, or, went to Mexico and somebody overfilled you so much.
I don't think we should do that.
No, I don't either. But there are people that end up that way.
Yeah.
Or like the filler migrates to here.
Yeah. One time I did get it done. I went to a hotel room.
Stop.
Babe, it was before I knew. Okay. And it came all over here. But I didn't go get it melted down. I just massaged it till it was done.
How long did you have to massage it to get back into place? This is important information.
It did probably a month. I mean, but that was every day. You know, I had that rose quartz roller, baby. I was just giving it hell every day. I was rolling it. It finally, and you know how they talk about, don't y'all have the Joker smile? I had it just for no. And then I couldn't move my eye. So, I mean, I was doing shows too like that. I was doing shows.
I was going to have to ask if you have any pictures, but it sounds like there might be like actual video footage.
Yeah, yeah. So.
That's great.
I won't do that. But anyway, so mama, if she'd date, and then she'd date some mean old man, you know, that'd be an alcoholic or something, and there'd be we'd get beat up or whatever, and then we'd get through that, and life was really great. I had a lot. I never was bored in life. I went back.
Hold on.
We were segued into something, so I thought I'd take us. I looped back.
You looped back, so A, good job.
Thank you.
B, you just glazed over. So mama would date some guys and then date somebody who's an alcoholic and abuses, beat us up and everything.
Yeah.
And so life was always interesting. So what?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've talked about that. So, I mean, but to you, I guess I don't really know. Yes. And you know, the thing about, I will say this because sometimes my family, if they see it, they'll get upset. I loved my stepdad so much, but he's like, you know, I mean, he was an alcoholic, and in his disease, he was abusive, and not in his disease, he was wonderful.
Right.
And I have done so much work around him, and I forgive him and love him, and he's passed away, and I have this beautiful spiritual relationship with him. But for many years, he was physically and verbally abusive, and you know, he's the first person to give me alcohol, and I was an alcoholic at 14, and like, you know, that was the escape. I was trying to escape that so much with alcohol or men or whatever.
So 2 questions. I'll ask the first one first. I have a terrible habit of asking like 3 at once. So working on that.
I'm getting so good at looping back, though.
You are. We're both growing.
We're right here, witnessing it.
Look at these roots. So
we're here. I'm going. I like your bracelets.
Thank you. Okay. Dang it, you distracted me.
No.
So, no, my first question on this subject is, what was your earliest memory of boyfriend number 1 being abused or alcohol? Was boyfriend number 1 that was like no good? Was it? Was he also your first influence of alcoholism in your life?
My grandmother Loretta has wrote a book called Coal Miner's Daughter in 1981, and I was in kindergarten. And so she's very open about my grandfather's drinking and that. So I was attracted to what alcoholism looked like at a very young age, seeing that movie, reading that book so young. My mom obviously let me see and read too much. So I always kind of wanted to be an alcoholic and an addict because you got songs wrote about you and it was kind of glamorous, you know? So that was my first thing about like, oh, that looks fun. My other grandfather, Granny's husband, he was an alcoholic too, but he was like this stud that had a lot of money and new cars, and he was the coolest one of everybody. So alcoholism to me in that regard never looked messy and mean. It looked like you had a lot of money and a lot of clout and people liked you.
And fun.
Yeah. And that was about fun. And nobody was bored. My mom's first husband, or the husband that was abusive, I was 8. So he was abusive the first night of their marriage and an alcoholic going into it. But I realized he was an alcoholic probably, I had to be older to understand that. So I was probably like 12 or 13 before I understood that that's
so
what
you
that
knew
looked like.
Abuse was happening before you connected the dots to it being
I just thought
alcohol.
he was mean.
Right. Yes.
And I couldn't understand why he was safe and fun and then he was mean and reckless. I couldn't
the Dr.
comprehend.
Jekyll, Mr.
Yes, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Right. Yeah. I couldn't understand that for a long time. I didn't understand that until probably I was healed from that.
What did you think
I just
when that happened? Like when
that my mother was an idiot.
Yeah, but like
That was my focus.
so you directed
all of it towards my mother being an idiot and him just being a bad person. But having to hide that I liked him too, because Granny and Aunt Bill were like, what is Cindy, my mom, doing? Like, and we got cut off too, financially. And so not only did we have this new abusive, like crazy thing going on, we also had no money. So now we're like living in, a shack with this way out of town. So it like all happened at once. If I'm making sense.
Well, yeah, no, I'm just thinking like, how could you as a kid not look at your mom and be like,
well, she was doing it. Yeah.
Right. And at that age, you're clear, like,
yeah, like
you know.
Yeah. I mean, I was
enough.
mostly mad at her, even though he was the one doing it. But I loved him too. It was very strange. And I felt guilty for also loving him. And then nobody knew because he was such a good guy out there that I also felt like I was insane all the time. Because, yeah.
So the impression outside of the family was that he was this different person that...
Well, especially when we got Redneck Rich. So when we got Redneck Rich with the towing service, he employed so many kids, all of our friends, that nobody ever saw that side of him. And he was paying everybody. They all worked there, and he was like such a good time that and I've always been so wild, and I was an alcoholic from the time I was 14. So didn't I deserve whatever I got? So it all looked like it was just messy. There was there was nothing black and white about any of it. And that's why I couldn't figure it out ever.
If you had any discoveries about if you really loved him or if you were trauma bonded to him?
Nobody's ever asked me that question. I've never even asked myself that. I have known what trauma bond is in other relationships, but for some reason I've never even, I guess I need to go back to look at that. My dad was not around, and I wanted a dad so bad that he maybe could have been anybody living in our home as a male, and I would have tried to love him. Roger was sweet and fun, but he was also dangerous. So I don't really know. I don't know. That's I'm going to get curious about that question because it.
So let me ask you this a little bit further into it. Do you remember what you told yourself about, because we all have, I know you said that you blamed your mom.
Yeah.
But there's an internal dialogue that happens. And sometimes we disassociate, so it might not be something you know, but when he was bad to you or your mom or whoever, what did you, like, how did you reflect on that? Did you acknowledge it was harmful, bad behavior? Did you feel like you deserved it? Did you feel like, do you remember what your thought process was around it, or was there none?
There was. I at first was, when it first happened that first night, I was like, oh my God, what have we gotten into? Like, what has she gotten us into? I understand what you're asking, but like, I recognized it immediately. Like, we're in trouble. And then sometimes it would happen and I would think, I did this. I was bad. I was bad. I was bad. I deserve this. And then other times I was so scared that I probably did disassociate some. But a lot of it I blamed myself for. And a lot of it was confusion, because some of the stuff would happen because I would be drunk, but he would have bought the alcohol. So it was like, what step did I miss? I'm missing something. So I would just try to get smarter and, get a little more street smart about it all.
At that age, we don't understand the age discrepancy of like it doesn't matter what you did wrong.
Yeah.
The math doesn't math. The math isn't mathing.
They ain't mathing, yeah.
It doesn't matter at all what you did wrong.
Yeah.
His wrong trumps, and I think that piece is something that so many people never have the opportunity to untangle and carry with them about
so true.
It must have been me. I did something. What did I do to cause this? Mm-hmm. And so anytime there's something bad or you perceive bad inside yourself.
Mm-hmm. And it continues on through your life. Like if that was, I went to 7 rehabs. Like it took me, and still, like you just asked me a question that I'd never thought of before. I still have work to do around it because I'm constantly in my mind still today, I'm in trouble. I'm the one that did something wrong. I deserve this. Had I not done that behavior, it's still that's still the message from before. And I have to reset and get quiet and get with God and get meditative and use the tools that I have and go, okay, what's the truth? What is the truth here? So you are so right. I think that's why my aunt, it's hard for her to forgive because she was older and she could see this older man doing these things to a child, but I've been able to forgive him later, but she can still see it never mattered what I did. It should have never mattered what my behavior was.
Right.
Being abused, there is no excuse for that, no matter what.
This podcast is brought to you by Promises Behavioral Health. If you or a loved one are struggling with trauma, addiction, or mental health, we are ready to answer your questions and help you take that next step. Call our admission center at 888-648-4098 or visit us online at www.promises.com. Our team is ready and waiting to answer the call for help. If you had to put a word on the cycle that we're talking about, killing you, hurting you, saving you, did you attribute that to any type of mental health or personality disorder issues or trauma? What do you think was there anything in addition to the alcoholism that you could tie that back to?
I don't think I even had words for that until the last few years. So I guess because I felt like I didn't even know we were going to talk about this today. You know what I'm saying? We're diving into something I wasn't expecting, and which is fine. I'm cool with it. But I thought it was all tied in a bow and he was an alcoholic, period. But when you ask that, I don't know. That's a really interesting question. I don't know. Because
alcohol in and of itself, it's a beast, but it doesn't make you beat your kids.
Right. What's the horse thief, sober them up? You still got a horse thief, right?
Yeah. In that cycle, though, how did you first see it happening? Was it with you? Was it with your mom?
It was with me. I was fighting with my brother, and he picked me up and punted me down the hall. That was their wedding night. So it was with me.
Your stepdad did that?
Yes.
Wow.
So that was probably why I would think I was the catalyst for it. And triggering all that behavior because I've always been loud and wild. And so it's really easy for people to point their finger at me, and I'm always willing to take it.
So one area I can relate to you there, not the abuse, but I feel some of the similar energy between us. I was always the outgoing, I still am. Suck the air out of a room.
I've had plenty of people say to me, I suck the air out of there.
Yeah, I don't mean to.
No, can't help it. God's thing.
But I think something that I could sense from you already from the jump was that as a child, you talked about so fondly experiencing joy, having fun times. Not everybody loves to have a good time or is let's go do something fun or whatever, right? You're a fun seeker.
Yes.
Okay. So then you're going through this whole change. Your mom takes you into, you're getting cut off from the family. You're living in a, you said, you're all of a sudden anymore. You're poor, all this stuff. And life completely changes. But people like us are like, I'm gonna, especially as a kid, you haven't lost it yet. You're like, if I'm alive, I want to have fun. Mm-hmm. It may look different what that is. Mm-hmm. So our representation before us of what the fun buffet is changes.
Yeah.
And so as you're telling this to me, I just came up with that little metaphor, the fun buffet. But
I really like the fun buffet.
I love buffets.
Oh my, love buffets. Have you ever been to Lambert's?
Where's
where
that?
they throw rolls at
No.
you and just dump fried okra out on your table?
Shut up.
It's in Missouri. You have to go. I just went. I'm sorry.
How, like, did you drive?
Yeah, it's in Ozark, Missouri.
Well, I've never been to Missouri.
Okay, well, you'll have to go to Oklahoma, and then on the way, you'll stop at Lambert's. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay.
They don't have a buffet.
I feel robbed in this moment.
You'll like it. It's like a buffet on your table of fried okra and potatoes and rolls.
All right.
Okay.
You're redeemed. So
Isn't it delicious? Yeah. It's so fun. I'm sorry. I just went. I had to bring it up.
you're redeemed. That I forgive you for the
You will
misinformation
like it.
about.
Yeah. I mean, it's a buffet, sort of, at your table.
So the fun buffet.
Yeah.
You're in this place now with stepdad, mom, not, blaming mom. It's not of your choosing. And first night that happens to you. As time goes on, do you remember what, like, if we're talking about this metaphor of a fun buffet and you're like, we as kids, we're pre-programmed to be like, okay, so what's the point? Like, why are we excited today?
Yeah.
Right. So what then presented itself as like the new options for you? Because eventually it was alcohol,
But in between.
and leading up, what was it? How was life changing as far as like what you were doing to have fun and find a thrill in life?
Well, he was really fun. He was really fun. And I think I played into that too. He had a big family who we loved. And
So from the get-go, the family was tied in, and you knew the right thing was you had to love him because you had a connection to the family and they were good people. And
I still love their family, his family. And talking about stuff like this, I have talked about not like this before, but I have been open about this before, and it is upsetting to them. My aunts, they love their brother, and, not everybody gets on podcasts or videos or whatever and talks about this stuff openly. So I know, and my sister, it's my sister's dad. She's been beautiful about it. But yeah, still, I think, to this day, maybe in some ways, now I'm questioning kind of everything during this podcast. To be loved, I must love. Maybe it's still that message there for that too. I don't know. The more attention we gave him, the better life was in any way.
so, and that's where I'm going.
I know. I know.
Fun being a currency, the cost of fun.
Yeah, and I would do anything to have fun. And so whatever game I needed to play in order to keep things energetic and fun and moving, I would do that.
So as time moved on and it wasn't just somersaults down the hallway and being goofy, fun looked like something different that got introduced to you. Take us to that point leading up to it and what happened.
I don't think it's it's probably not as dramatic as maybe you're thinking it is. I guess it's all relative though too, right? It's all relative. Sometimes I would think if I could get him to beat the shit out of me and punch me in the face instead of my body, which was the norm, right? I had the bruises were always on my body, not on my face. If I could provoke him enough to do that or to do it in front of people, then this could all be over. So there were many nights of how to provoke that behavior. So that was sort of an obsession too, was how to push him to the edge of getting that done and then getting scared. And and acting cool about him drinking with my buddies or, you know, being whatever he was being with the girls or, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, there was never any, I don't want to get too much into that part of the story because I feel like that's like, I don't want to disrespect that part. But, you know, always, I think I still do that with, you know, just to be cool, just to act cool in order to have a good time and to feel safe probably. Because if everybody's having fun, then you're safe.
Yeah.
Just so stupid.
It's highly unlikely that your first attempt to get the behavior to stop was to try and provoke him to beat you up in public or on your face. Mm-hmm. So if you think back, was there other attempts of if I can be good enough or less disruptive or whatever, controlling
So my mom,
scenarios?
She loved to nap and he hated that. And so I was constantly moving and he hated a dirty house. So I was cleaning and rearranging our house all the time. I would rearrange the living room once a week. So he would come home and like, he loved that. He loved to be cooked for. So I was always cooking something. Yeah. So I think those were things or,
Did it pay off when you did?
Sometimes,
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on what you're talking about.
Right.
Yeah, it did pay off. I would
think
tell my mom too sometimes, and that would be probably that would be a payoff for a second, but then he would beat my mother in front of me and I wouldn't use that. I would mainly try to just pick up I would try to cleaning up, moving, getting everything together, cooking, answering the record service phone. That was a big job of mine. Being more of a redneck. Bringing a slew of my pretty girlfriends home. I mean, you know, cheerleading in the front yard. I mean, whatever to show off.
Did that stuff just stopped? Because like you said, it works sometimes. Mm-hmm. Did it start working less and less?
I guess so. And I never considered until you said this, like, even if I wasn't there, it would have happened anyway in some way. And it never happened to my brother. He never did that to my brother because my brother was quiet and would stay in his room. So I don't know. Sometimes it worked and sometimes and then sometimes I threw a cowboy boot into the middle of a big bowl of chili in the kitchen table and nobody did anything. They laughed. So, I mean, you just never knew what was going to provoke or not. I mean,
wow.
It could be because I locked my bedroom door. Mm-hmm. I mean, you just never knew what the thing was going to be.
First of all, I love to take naps.
It's my favorite thing.
Like if I don't get a nap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a beast.
And I don't have to take naps because I'm escaping any, like, yeah, it's like a healthy thing for me.
Do you wake up early?
Yes.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
It's magical.
It's so true.
But it's also an escape when you need an escape.
Yeah.
In many ways. Mm-hmm. And so I can't help but wonder if for your mom, that was something that potentially she needed. But what I'm more interested in is why was he so upset about your mom taking naps?
Yeah.
Why did it bother him so much?
I know. That is interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, she was always exhausted. Or, you know, smiling and having a great time. It was never like there was no middle.
Well, if you're smiling and having a great time, but it's not real.
Yeah, you're exhausted.
You're exhausted.
Yeah. I hated when she napped too. And I feel terrible about myself when I nap, but I love naps. But
you feel terrible about yourself?
Yeah, like I feel, my husband would never judge me for napping. Uh-huh. But if he walks in and I'm napping, I'll immediately stand up. Like I still have that in my body.
Do you feel like you're, it's time that you should be productive?
Yes. It's I'm either like sitting in bed all day or I'm doing 4,000 different things. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason to my life.
You're either all or nothing?
Can you imagine?
No.
So weird.
What's that like?
I know.
So what are you still trying to work through other than the taking naps and that reaction being you still go to a negative place?
Yeah. I think that a lifetime's a lifetime of work for me is that I will make males a monster in a way. Like, so if even my husband does a little thing, I can turn that into a monstrous event that really isn't that. And I have 2 sons, and I don't want to do that with men. So I'm constantly still working on, like, I don't know if that's making sense, like boundaries with saying what I mean and meaning what I say and not feeling guilty about it. And then I don't have to make the other person the villain. And I don't do that with my girlfriends. It's only like I'm in a band with a man, and I'll do that with him too. Like, he's my business partner, but he's still a male. So like, I'll do that with him.
Are you meaning like if there's something wrong, it must be that he did, or tell me a little bit more about what you mean.
I usually feel like I'm stupid. If, you know.
So.
But in my mind, when I'm the healing part, when I'm working with my somatic coach or whatever, you know, when I'm healing and doing the work, then I'm like, I am worthy, I am valuable, like, and, you know, I'll do all my stuff that I'm supposed to do, and I'll speak my boundary. But if someone pushes, I'll revert back and go, yeah, you're right. I don't know what I was thinking.
Well, and you know what is not crazy about that at all? Is that you told me when your family was transitioning to this place where you were moving in with an abuser, you just wanted a male figure, a father figure so bad. And it probably could have been anybody. And that anybody that filled that brought you fun with a price, that brought you a male primary figure into your life. There's a hardwiring there that like we go back to repeating our trauma.
Yeah.
And look at people or situations through that same lens. It's only normal that happens. And I mean, it's like you talked about, the therapies do so many. It's interesting when you talk about therapies, because some are like, when we're talking about bringing us back to the boundary and the grounding and what have you, that's meant to re-regulate us.
Yes.
But then you talk about the trauma therapy, and that work of untangling and rewriting how your mind and emotions attach to certain situations and or people or types of people, that can, for some people, be quick. I've talked to people that have done a few months of EMDR and they're like, poof, wow, this has been amazing. And people who've done many sessions, long, periods of time in various forms, because it's so interwoven to their identity. And when you talk to me about how fun was one of the most important things to you as a kid, and you loved like experiencing joy so much and being adventurous and just what's the next thing. And when you go into this phase of your life, that in order to achieve that, you had to be good, do this, do that, sometimes throw your mom under the bus to the abuser, all these things, to the person who filled the role of what a male would be in your life. It only makes sense to me that now your precious little brain that's trying to protect you is fight or flighting, going,
yes,
but he could be, and you need to protect yourself. So if you just like say but it was probably my fault, or it was, if you shrink down and take the blame or whatever,
seems easier too. Maybe not in the long run, but in the moment. Yeah.
To somebody who's been, you know what I mean? I'm sure there are people listening that haven't been through anything like what you're talking about, going, that does not sound easier.
Yeah. Yeah.
That does not sound easier, because you're taking on that toll and it sits there. And then you've got to go do a bunch of stuff to undo it.
Yes.
So how is that easier?
I don't know, but I was thinking while you were talking, I was listening to you, but I was also thinking, and on the way in here, I was like pumping myself up, like I've been in recovery for a long time and I've done a lot of therapy, and I was just comparing myself to people that you've had on here, Ruthie, like just these amazing people. And I'm like, you know what? But I know what I'm talking about, and I've got some answers, and everything's going to be okay. And then when I sit down with you, I'm like, I hope that I sound smart enough. And then when we're in this and we start talking about it again, you know, Aaron's saying, I hope this doesn't open up new wounds, and it doesn't. I'm really curious about it, and I'm walking away with even clearer. I mean, what you're doing here is magical. I mean, it's really eye-opening, and we've only been sitting here for whatever. I don't even know how long, if it's been 10 minutes or an hour.
And my sense of time is, we were talking about this the other day.
Yeah,
When I sit in this chair, something happens. And it could have been 2 hours already. I have no idea. But.
Yeah. And what you were saying about the different therapies, I've had so much help with therapists, and I've had very little help. And I've had great recovery years and terrible recovery years. And I have been healing, but I do love it. And maybe this is the fun seeker in me. I'm pretty excited to walk out of here and like, it's not opening an old wound. It's like, oh my God, I can't wait to explore this more, because this is like, maybe this is where I'm at. This is the piece. Now it's time for that piece that I didn't even know.
And that's what healing is all about. And healing trauma is that, like, we can't talk about, like, and not for everybody, but in many ways, our brain is made to, like, it's like layers of the onion. Like, we're not getting to the core of it until we're ready. So that's, I mean, like, when another layer of that onion gets peeled back and we go, oh my God, it's been so long since that happened, and I've been working on myself. How did I not know until now?
Yeah.
Because you weren't freaking ready.
Right. And I think for me, it's like sitting down and going, Loretta Lynn's my grandmother. I was a crack and heroin addict. I weighed 82 pounds. It's been 20 years since I've done crack and heroin or had a drink. Like, those things are so easy to like focus on and say. And yes, I have not done those things, and I have grown from that. But then when you go, what's underneath all that? I mean, it's like you're never done. I don't know.
No.
I'm sitting here and I don't know anymore about anything. That's what's happened today.
Well, so there's a quote from somebody famous about, like, and I don't know who it is, because I don't remember.
I never know who it is.
But it basically, the statement is, like, the older and wiser I get, the more I realize I don't know.
Yes.
And I hope I continue getting to that place, because when we're so sure, we're not open to receiving new information. And so there's like some peace that we can find in that. But somewhere I was going to go with what we were just talking about is being a fun seeker. And that you were talking about how through your addiction and everything, you know, you have clung to therapy. You've said, you know, you've had therapists that didn't work. You've had therapists that really helped. You did, you know, whatever. A common thread, I think, among those of us who are enthusiasts, outgoing, fun seekers, is that we're tenacious, relentless, and not willing to let go of, right? Like, okay, that didn't work. What's next?
Yes.
What's different?
Yeah.
And so that'll show up in our negative stuff, our negative coping mechanisms, and then it shows up in our positive as well. And so, as I know we've been here for so long, so I want to move forward a little bit, but as we kind of move on from that chapter, we're talking about how alcohol entered the picture for you. How did it change your life? First, in that situation, right? Obviously, it brought more fun. It was introduced to you as a 14-year-old, you said. Yes.
I never thought this until this moment, because now you've taken me down a whole different path. But then there was a connection between Roger and myself, my stepdad. There was the connection of alcohol, and that was the new thing. That was the, whatever you called it, the currency or whatever.
The currency, cost of fun, the currency that was used. Yeah.
Yes. And so that was the first thing that happened. And two, I loved it so much. I mean, talk about fun. I mean, I was throwing up and blacking out the first time I ever got drunk, and I was like, I'm ready. Let's go again tomorrow. Like, so I just loved it. The pills, I know you didn't ask this, but the pills, the first time I took those when I was 18 or 19, that's when I was like, I can breathe. Now I can relax. So that was more of that part. I know. Am I making sense?
You are,
Okay,
but it's interesting to
staring
me
at
because
me, so.
no, when I stare, it's something I'll tell you about is like
Okay.
when I go into that deep stare. My partner thinks this too.
Okay.
When I do that stare, he's like, "What?"
Yeah, am I clear?
No, I'm in like such deep thought processing what you're talking
Yes.
about. I'm not like disassociating. I promise. Even if I disassociate, I'm looking that way.
Okay, I can disassociate and look right in your eyes.
Really?
So, yeah, no, it's bad.
I wonder if I can. I don't think
You
I
can. Sure, you can.
I'm going to try it
Do
at some
it.
point.
Go.
Not right now.
Okay,
I'm going to
great.
see
Later.
if you can catch me
Okay.
doing it. So.
So
Damn
yes.
it.
Okay,
So-
where were you? Yes.
But we're talking about like what alcohol did for, like what substances and alcohol did for us. And I think it's interesting. You know, every substance does something different for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, for me, the sense of ease and comfort, that ultimate, I say the peace passes all understanding the Bible,
Yes.
and I learned about in church,
Yeah.
came for me with those first few drinks. And I was like, where's this been all my life? Because I can finally breathe. But I think it's so interesting to me that you found an extra amount of fun. You were in the midst of like ultimate abuse in your home. But the alcohol brought fun. It did not bring peace within a storm.
No.
Peace within a storm came years later.
When I was already out of it, yeah. Yeah, peace within myself. I mean, you know, where you could just finally sit down. The alcohol was party girl. I mean, it just intensified everything. I just loved it. I love dancing on bars.
But it also makes sense because you were a fun seeker, and your representation of what alcohol and alcoholism was from a child
Yes.
was alcoholism is
Good
fun.
time.
You will have a good time.
You're
People
sexier,
will like you.
you're better look. Everybody
Right.
wants to be with you. Yeah.
So you weren't even associating or thinking, I'll find peace with this.
No, I
You're
didn't know you
seeking-
could. I
right.
never did. Even when I realized I was an alcoholic, I didn't drink going, I got to escape. I drank because we were going to go out. The pills I took.
Gasoline
to
on a
do
fire.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did was it just the music industry you were surrounded by? I'm guessing because I grew up in Nashville.
The pills? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. So once I
progression.
moved in with me, Ma, Loretta, I told you, so we didn't grow up that. I started getting the fame piece. When I moved in with her, that's Broadway, when it was a different kind of Broadway.
Yeah.
And that is Music Row. And that's this whole back when, what was that? That was 25 years ago of like being in the midst of it, and you could get your hands on anything you wanted if you were in that little group. So it was cocaine and pills.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Sidestepping. Fame is a drug. Even if it's not yours, adjacent fame. When you were younger, the
Yes.
minute that you realize and it's turned on.
Oh.
Okay.
Come on.
Yeah. What was that like at that moment?
Everything I ever thought it could be and more. Everything I'd ever wanted, everything that I didn't think I would ever have, all of it. And it all came at one time. I'd never thought about that until you just said that. Nobody's ever asked me that because I don't know why, who cares? But it was an explosion all at once because it was being able to use the name. It was being able to be with the people. And then it was cocaine and drugs. And it all came all at one time. Everything. Then I started going out on the road with my grandmother and singing, and like it all came at once.
That sounds like a hell of a lot of fun to me.
You want to talk about, for a while there, it was top notch living. It was incredible because for a while you can do it, you know? It was, and I wasn't even 21 yet. So I was like getting into all the places, 12th and Porter was so cool back then. And like, we were after hours there. Just a blast.
Talk about stuff that gives you a good feeling. Like when you get like that special privilege of doing something or being somewhere you're not supposed to be. Tell me I'm not supposed to do something and then like make it possible for me to like do it anyway.
You have lit my fire. Yes. And so it was like that, until I got sober, and then it was a different type, and Meemaw let me go on the road with her sober, and I figured out how to sort of find that in a more balanced way. But I love attention. I just love attention.
Okay, so me too, but I have to say that when I find somebody else that's similar to me in this regard, because I carried like as I've healed, I started to carry some shame and guilt around because as a little kid, I remember receiving these messages of you're a lot, you're too much.
Yes.
You're suck the air out of a room. Oh, you have a stage everywhere you go, whatever. And so the message I received was always, that there's something wrong with that there's, that obviously unbalanced. Sure, there can be narcissistic but I also think that just like any traits that make up our personality, there can be so much good. It's as a tool. And what I love about people like us is that there are so many people who would rather eat
class.
Yes. Than have attention, right. Like, but to you and me, it's like, I cannot fathom what that's like.
Are they yours?
Oh yeah.
The people that would rather eat glass than get attention. Those are my best friends.
Yeah. And so, it works out real well because, then they don't take any away from me.
They can't.
But no. So, but my whole point is that like used for the good, as a good tool and for a good purpose, you can pare that down to being something that's meant for connection.
Yes.
Right. Like ultimately at the good vibration, the good source, seeking attention, and whether it's on a stage, in a room, whatever, can be thoughtfully done in a way that has good intentions. And it's to foster connection between you and me, between me and the audience, between a concept and other people, for, like I said, the best of intentions, whether it's, I hope you have fun, so therefore I'm going to play this music and connect you to it, or I'm going to tell you this joke, or I'm going to be silly and bring my fun.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to, whatever. Right. And I think when we're out of balance and we're using it because we're avoiding, feeling what we don't want to feel, or right, like we're using it to cope in a different way. Yeah. That's when it's selfish.
Right.
And there's so much of I think, misinformation about attention seekers that it's always negative, that it's always, vanity for whatever. And it's not.
No,
it doesn't
I think
have
that's
to
why
be
it's
that
easy
way.
to claim it too now, don't you? Like when you know yourself and you're
yes, but it takes working on yourself enough to know that
this
like,
is okay.
Wait, no, I see that. I know how to use it.
I know how
I
to
can
be
use
quiet.
those powers for good.
Yeah. Sometimes I go to funerals and they want you to be quiet, but the family doesn't want you to be quiet. And so some people might see you're joking around. I'm just using this example with the family as you seeking attention, but really you brought this like good energy into a really sad situation, and the family loves it, babe. And your friends are horrified in the corner because you're supposed to be crying in your black suit. Go ahead.
Can I tell you why I'm laughing so hard right now is that when one of my earliest memories, like I told you, my parents are older. Like they had me at an older age. I'm the youngest of four, and all my family members were old. So like when I was born, people were dying already. As a kid, I went to so many funerals, and one of my earliest memories is being at one of those funerals and getting in so much trouble because I had gotten exposed to jokes, and I thought jokes were so funny, and I loved to make people laugh. And so I knew, like, I don't know, I had memorized like 3 jokes, and I would tell them over and over and over. And anyway, I started telling jokes at this funeral, and my mom found out after it had been going on for a minute. And when I tell you, I got in so much trouble. But you know what? I have to think that
somebody liked it.
Yes.
Somebody liked it.
I'm going to call my mom after this.
Ask her.
She won't admit it.
Okay. And anybody else that wants us to come to y'all's funeral, let us know, because we would go to their funeral.
Yep.
And bring our jokes.
I am one of those people. I have so many friends who are like anti-funeral.
Be a death doula.
So
yes,
but they feel weird about going. They're like, no, it's just for no. If you showed up in my life at all and you died, or your mama died, and I care about you, I'm going to be there.
I'm going.
Oh, everybody who knows me better be at my funeral.
Oh, and I will go to. I don't care if I even know you. I will go to your funeral. I love a funeral. I always said I wanted to be a mortician if I wasn't a singer. I don't want to go to school and practice and all that, but I would like to work on the bodies and set them up and prop them up and then say,
like
I'm
you
so
want to do it,
sorry.
like do the makeup and like
Yeah,
make them
I don't
look
want to shove the stuff out and in, but I don't mind that. But I want to I'm so sorry for your loss and sit beside them and like cradle them while they're crying and then greet them at the door and everything. Here are her belongings. Like, we're so sorry. Like I do want to do all that stuff.
I wonder if any
So there's
like
death dueling, I think I'm gonna get into that.
now it sounds like you're saying death dueling.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying.
I
Dueling.
do, but I'm like envisioning like what a death duel. I guess by nature a duel is death, but
Dr. Kevorkian. You understand.
I do.
Taking them out.
Bringing it full circle. I know I've come left field a bunch here.
I don't know that you're coming full circle anyway. But let's see what you come up with.
Glad to feel that faith in me.
I'm here for it.
So we've talked about you being a big personality, seeking fun. We know that you've got this talent. Did you see yourself, especially at that age, as one with potential?
Yes.
Do you think that it's any coincidence that you were the one that was targeted between, and picked on the most?
I think now, thinking back, my mother listened to me a lot. And ultimately, I helped drag her out of there. And maybe he always saw that. Something like my mother would listen to me always. I was always very close with my mom. And so I convinced her a lot to leave. We left a lot under my guidance. I was able to push her out of there a lot.
So you left?
We left a lot. Yeah,
back.
left. And she would go back. I mean, the last beating I had with broken ribs and nose and left, and we all left. My mom couldn't see. Both of her eyes were blacked out. I mean, it was concussions, horrible. She stayed. We were able to stay gone, but he came and he cut wires on the car. And so I went to live with my grandmother. I was like, I can't stay. I was so scared. And my mom didn't want to go to my grandmother's, and she went back to him. And then I just never went back. But before that, I was able to convince her to get us out a lot. I mean, she was codependent with me like that. I mean, she would hear me. So I think he saw that too.
As you're saying this, I go back to a place of how even now being, going through the healing that you've gone through, how quick you were to come to early on defend the good sides to him, and that you love his family and that you don't want they can be great people, but great people also, like, they don't need you to defend what happened to you.
Yeah.
You just told me that your ribs were broken, you have black eyes. Why?
They still don't believe me. I don't think people
wires
believe
were
me
cut
still. Yeah.
in the car. Like,
I think some people think that I say this stuff, and I hope sitting here with you that you can see me. I think that some people think that I say it maybe it's going to get me somewhere. Maybe I do like shock value, obviously. There is that part, but I still think that there's an element of not being believed, and that's just Tayla. Tayla's just out there. That's just Tayla. There's still that thing. I think what a lot of people in my life still from then.
It goes back to the narrative that we were talking about of like, you're too big, you're too loud, you're too fun, too much, sucking too much of the air out of the room. Mm-hmm. That story, how could that possibly be?
Yeah, he never did that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. My grandmother and my aunt, the most beautiful gift that they could have ever given me. And I don't even know where these pictures are, but I can remember in my mind going to their homes and them taking pictures of the bruises and saying, we believe you, and seeing those pictures. And so in my mind, anytime I question myself about these things, that gift of them showing me what it looks like. Tayla, look at this. You see, this is true. This is true. And having that, and they're both gone now, but those two strong women who were old and both single, living on a hill, who he hated, and standing there saying, this is true and we're in your corner and we believe you. Ultimately, Granny got custody of me when I was 14. But that was such a gift to see that and be able to see that actual image in my mind, always knowing that I'm not lying, you know, because I think sometimes we can even convince ourselves that what we are saying is a lie, and being able to look back on that and go, no,
1,000%.
Yeah.
Along those lines, it also, you know, it makes me wonder if you ever ask yourself, as you explained something to me, you said, I wanted him to beat me up on my face so people would see, and then it could be over soon. Why did you think that, what messages was it that you received that told you getting black and blue on the rest of your body wasn't enough?
Still today, when people spank their children hard, it gives me anxiety. To each their own. But I was able to convince myself that that's just what we grew up. Really country. Everybody was getting belt whipped back in the day. I mean, not everybody, obviously, but like so many people that we were around were getting, you know, took the rod to the child, but, you know, so that just seemed like maybe I bruised easily, or, you know, I was little, I was tiny. So, I mean, it was just all felt like there was a reason.
So black and blue from the neck down
was fine. But if I could get
discipline.
a black eye, then that would look like on TV when I saw child abuse. But what I had didn't look like. Do you remember that movie Stepdad that came out? Anyways, that's the whole thing that triggered me. But a black eye looked like an afternoon special or whatever. But the stuff on the body didn't.
There's something there. I mean, we could go on and on forever, but I realized like I couldn't let that go undone without like speaking to it. And, you know, we want to be so careful when we're talking about such delicate issues. I mean, really, there's really not an episode that we do that doesn't involve some level of trauma. Some are a lot lighter, some are very deep like this. And so we always unpack it thoughtfully and then, you know, wrap it up as well. So as we move forward through your journey, and I know we spent a lot of time on this initial part, you touched on, you know, as like it moved on to cocaine and all these things and like went fast and heavy to the point where it was really bad. What was your state like physically? What was life like that time leading right up to going to treatment?
Oh, I mean, when I went to treatment, I had gone on and off to like the detox or whatever. I mean, but when I finally got sober, I mean, I was 80 pounds. I'm 110 right now. So like 80 pounds and living God knows where. Nobody could find me. I still don't know where any of my stuff is from the time I was born until I was 27 years old. I left it all somewhere. Every piece of picture, furniture, everything. You know, I was living with someone who was abusive and like basically kidnapped, for lack of a better word. I couldn't get out, but then I needed to stay near the drugs anyway, so it didn't matter. And Roger died, and they found me, and they were able to call me somehow. I don't even know whose phone I had. I don't know how my brother found me. And it was July 15th, 2004. And he said, you know, Roger's been in a drunk driving accident. He's dead. Come home. And somehow I figured out how to come home, but then I got in a hit and run the next day and got held up over at the projects in Nashville by a sawed-off shotgun. And he stole my car. And I called the cops at the drug dealer's house. And so like 20 cops came over on Fatherland, you know, which is now where all the rich people live over there. And I'm like, 20 years ago, y'all wouldn't even stand it. Y'all don't even know. And so I went to jail and during the funeral. And so that's kind of how that was sort of my bottom. And then I went to Cumberland Heights the next day and started seeking fun again in a different, you know, more healthy healthy way.
Well, we kept talking about the cost of fun, and I thought about that parallel as you were describing that last abusive relationship that you were in, repeating, there's just a different currency, right? Like
I had to do that in order to get that. Mm-hmm. It continues on. Yeah.
It continues on. Mm-hmm. It may look different, but it continues on, and it just gets worse. Yeah. And good God. Thank goodness you found the doors of a place where you were able to find healing and then really begin that journey and stick with it.
Yeah. In 2013, I relapsed on Adderall. They'd given me ADHD meds. And so I had about a 6-month relapse from that. But the gift from that is I went to all women's rehab out in Seattle. And that's where I really learned about, sex and love addiction and eating disorders and things like that I had kind of, we have our hands in everything.
Medicated
right? Yeah,
with,
just medicated with everything. So that was a great, you said earlier, like when my spiritual mentor before I went in there, I was like, I already know everything. She was like, remember, you don't know shit. And so that was a great gift to walk in there with. And so that's been this year, 11 years. So it's ever growing.
Yeah.
This has been exhausting.
Well,
exhausting.
It means that good. Because it means that we did some stuff, know, but I want to get to the meat of the healing, right? So thank you for going through the journey of unpacking that and sharing it, because it is with so much reverence and respect that we have gratitude, and we appreciate the fact that you're sharing that, and hope that we're providing a buffet of hope to other people who are struggling or may struggle in the future. Yes. So what did, aside from treatment, the first step for you was obviously, for those of us suffering with addiction, chemical addiction, you gotta get that out of the way before, and then the other stuff pops up. So what were the things you said yes to that have kept you going on the path of healing, that have made a difference on your journey?
I think really, even though it sounds like I don't know any of this today, understanding that those things were not my fault and forgiving myself, forgiving my mother for continuing to keep us in that household, doing that imago therapy. I think I love imago. Go ahead.
So I was just going to say, for those who haven't heard of it, explain.
No, you explain.
No, you explain.
There's no way I'm going to explain it. You do it from that way, and then I'll just do my experience real fast.
I want your experience.
No, do it.
No,
because now I'm afraid imago therapy isn't the thing I did where somebody became Roger.
It focuses on conflict in relationships. It claims that conflict isn't the result of a lack of harmony, but from very specific circumstances stemming from childhood.
Can't we just keep all that in where I'm like, I don't know? Because here's what I'm talking about. I went to a week-long retreat. His name is Bedford Combs and Melissa Combs. They're amazing. I don't know if you know them. If you don't know them, you need to know Bedford. I met him through Cumberland Heights. He's an amazing therapist. She is too. And they do these week-long journey retreats. And someone embodied the spirit of my mother, and someone embodied Roger, and they actually play these parts. So his name was Whit, this man, and there were 7 of us on this week-long retreat. And he would say, I am sorry I hit you, Tayla. I love you. I should have never touched you. I should have never blamed you. You were a child. He did all these things, and I was weeping, and I believed him, and I felt Roger there, and there was so much relief and healing in that. My mother, they tied me up in ropes, and it was my mother holding me in all these ropes. I didn't even know I had issue with my mother. Being able to cut those ropes off and not have to take care of my mama anymore. She was not my job. It wasn't my job to keep her safe anymore. She's an adult. I didn't even know I was doing that all those years. Being able to do that, being able to admit that I had done things wrong, going and making amends to all the people, I did horrific things. And then just loving people and accepting people the way they are, but also loving myself and trying to be a good mom and still be honest and authentic. And
yeah, the honesty, the authenticity, the I would say being a good mom, the making amends, all falls under. I love to like bucket things, right? So 12. So you've no, it's no secret you have embraced the 12 steps in your recovery journey, and it's wonderful. And transformative and life-changing for many of us. We need more.
Yes, clearly. Here we are.
Yeah. And so like, was there some type of incident that made you say, okay, I need to look into this therapeutic environment or go, you know what I mean?
Well, I just love therapy.
You had already been in therapy?
I've been in therapy. I started therapy when I was 8.
That's right.
And then when I was 15, I started therapy. She was the first person to tell me I was an alcoholic and sent me to Sierra Tucson when I was like 19 to rehab.
Rude.
I know. I love her. I tried to call her the other day and her number was disconnected. Gail Powers in Brentwood. Do you know her?
I actually, I feel like I did back
At the
in the
Coker
day.
Center, Kosher Center, whatever.
Yes,
Gail Powers.
yeah.
She was
But
like,
I think she might be retired.
I'm sure she is. Yeah.
Because back when I did business development, she was one of my contacts.
I'm sure she is retired, but she saved my life in a lot of ways. And she was really the first person to point all this stuff out. And I have done EMDR. That has been somewhat beneficial for me. I don't know. I love therapy. I love somatic coaching. I love anything that I can get into that's like healing or being better or always trying to be a better person. I'm always into any of that. Like this has been really, you talk about a fun buffet, being able to do this stuff just lights me up. Yeah. Even though I didn't know that we were going to get into childhood
well,
trauma.
If we had told...
I don't know. Hell, I thought it was another talk about Loretta.
Nope.
I bet it could have been.
It could.
And there's plenty to talk about Loretta, but I just that's not really who made me what I with this part of it.
I really don't want to be an echo chamber of like everything you're constantly asked about. And so
trust me, we're not today.
Good.
I don't know that this is recorded many places.
Well, so I know we're needing to wrap things up.
I want you to find Gail Powers for me.
Okay.
Okay, I want to end with that.
I'll do it. So I'm gonna find no, you can't.
You can end the podcast, but you'll find Gail.
Yeah, I'll find Gail. But back to the tenacity, like even to today, like that thread is woven, right? Like even like we're talking about how it's woven through even an addiction, but like when you start seeking help, you're like, no, but there's more. There's more. I want to get better. I want to get better. And I think being relentless in the pursuit of happiness and knowing that even though we know a new freedom now, there's still like the journey never ends.
No.
And
I want more.
Right. Like the freedom in unknowing what we think we know is there's nothing like it. Because there's so many narratives about our life. I mean, we talked about a lot of them today where you sat down and asked you a question and you gave me the narrative that you thought I wanted to know. It's quite likely that so many of these narratives are the ones you tell yourself these are the like core narratives of my life.
That is what your life is. Yeah. I think that's why my aunt got so mad when she sees that and she's like, but that's not all you are or who you are. That's not the Tayla that I know that saw you your whole life. Like, where's that part of it?
So one thing that I think is so important to speak into, because this is where like this show sets ourselves apart, I think, than a lot of others, is that we're not interested in telling like everything about you or the gotcha side that is like the whatever, right? It's the, well, what about the part that like, that we haven't talked about, that people don't ask you about, that hasn't been opened yet? Because all of Tayla Lynn, just like the listener or viewer who thinks they're the only one tuning into this episode, may think like, there's this narrative about my life. This is who and what I am. Because if anybody in my life you were to ask, these are the things they would list about me. Right. But there are all these other pieces that make up who you are, and you're worthy of being able to say, no, this is worthy of an entire conversation to be focused on, where the other stuff is just not even talked about, or it's a side,
Well, thank you so much for allowing me to talk about it today.
Absolutely.
I do hope that anyone that might feel tied up or whatever, or has also had a story like that they do know that there's hope and healing and that there's freedom. I mean, I feel like maybe I only shared depressing something, but I am joy-filled and happy today. And
that translates.
Okay.
We laughed a bunch, by the way. I don't even know if that checked out.
I just want to make,
But like, what I mean by that translates is it's very evident that this person sitting here before me today is like, loves life.
Okay.
And has done a hell of a lot of healing.
Okay.
And I think it's a testament to why we spend so much time talking about what it was like, what happened, I think is because the people there's only so long I can sit here and hear somebody talk about how great recovery is.
Yeah.
It's great.
It is, yeah.
It is great.
Everybody kind of does hear that, what it's like now all the time,
yes.
right?
And so people understand suffering. And even if it wasn't they didn't suffer the same way, there's something that we are, the basic instinct of the human nature is, I want to support and be there for you, even if I don't even know you, if I'm connecting through this, right? Yeah. Like, and so there's something about, and I've had so many people who are regulars of this show. I had no relation to that story, but do you know how much it changed my life, in my understanding and my readiness to be compassionate to the person I don't know about? Because when you've been exposed to a story and taken time to hear and understand, you're less uncomfortable when something like that comes up. People shy away from abuse stories, especially with women, but period, because they're, I'm not going to open that box like that. I'm not a therapist, or I'm not this, or I'm not that. And the last thing we want to do is give off any type of energy to people that even just saying, I'm not okay, or giving a sign or whatever. Because I can't remember the statistic, but I know it's with the battered spouse syndrome that it takes on average. And this number has risen in the last statistic that I saw, a minimum of 9 tries before a female will successfully leave an abusive spouse. When you're a child and you don't have any control over that.
Yeah.
Right. So there's help. And we're going to, because of the nature of what we're talking about today, we're going to have a lot of, in addition to which we're going to get to in a second, talk about your music, we're going to have the links for helplines and things like that. So if you need help, there is help. And you are worth it. You're worth asking for it. You're worth saying whatever it is that you need to do to send a bat signal. And you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to keep it a secret. You don't have to think that you're the only one that can make the change. All right. So tell us, to your music. This is like a quick switch, but I want to talk about it, because talking about talent, charisma, uniqueness.
It's all here.
It's all here.
It's all here. We've got all of it.
She's sitting right in front of me.
Just here I am. How y'all doing? Well, I tour with Conway Twitty's grandson, Trey, and we have a duo called Twitty and Lynn, because Loretta and Conway were a duo. And we just came out with a new record. We've been touring since 2018, and we're doing great. We did 100 shows last year. We'll do over 100 this year, and we've got a new record. It just came out, and we wrote 7 of them. I wrote with Shelley Fairchild, Jeffrey Steele, Mark Narmore. I love Shelley. I know. I texted her last night and see if you guys knew each other. Told you, I I texted everybody. Shelly is incredible. She's the best vocalist in the whole entire town. Shelly Fairchild for mayor. And we're just loving it. The people are loving it. You know, it's Conway and Loretta's fans, but they're bringing their kids and their kids are bringing their kids. And it's just hopping right now. We're loving it. It's great. We're on Twitty and Lynn on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I had to get somebody to help me do. Christina's helping me do my TikTok, Christina
Hell
Hart.
yeah.
Because I'm like...
She's a beast in a good way. And
in a good way.
I tell you
and God
what,
love her for working with me because it's a...
This
God.
is another tangent, but TikTok, I can't even go down it.
I don't.
But I won't... it's a rebellious thing, I think.
I'm not doing it.
I think I could, but I don't...
No.
I have one, but it's not...
I have one too.
Yeah.
Christina
Anyway.
Hart is her name as Tayla Lynn. I know we're not supposed to tell it, but who cares, Christina? I look at it. I mean, they are me.
Yes.
I just send the videos to Chris and then she does them up.
I love it.
It's fine.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
The looks. Okay. So, God, thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me. Thank you. This is a really sweet space. And I have so much to work on now after being here that I'm fairly excited. The fun buffet at Lambert's is open. I am looking for I'd like a new therapist just to try some new stuff. Do you have somebody? Like, who's your favorite therapist? Aaron?
Yeah.
Oh, you do? You have a person? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to
We
that
most
person.
definitely
Do you
do.
want to say who the person
But
is?
also, I probably know your current therapist, so don't tell them that I inspired you to get...
It's fine. I like to go to a therapist is like a hairdresser, a
I know.
Botox. So I will shop her. I am a slut when it comes to therapy, Botox, hair. I'll go to anybody. I'll try. I already told you I got that lip fill in a dark hotel room. I do not
Well,
care.
let's stay away from getting therapy in a hotel room.
How about if your person is doing a workshop at Opryland Hotel? Then I would have to go.
Well, that's
Okay.
a
Next.
resort.
I want the name as soon as we're done. And
Yep.
then you can tell them what you did to me today. Edit.
Okay.
To me this morning, so it all comes out.
Perfect. All comes out in the wash.
That's
This has
right.
been great, Patrick.
Yes,
thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Final parting words.
No,
You laid it all out.
I'm tired.
You're Tanya Tuckered out.
You guys, I'm
You know, I got reamed the other day because I said at a concert, but I said Tanya Tucker, and they were like,
Did you tell me you were from Brentwood, though?
I know, but
Say, I'm from Brentwood, okay? We don't even say A like that. Y'all are rich in Brentwood. Where'd you go to high school?
we don't say A's like that.
Where'd you go to high
Oh,
school?
gross. No, I'm trying to detach myself from all that. I was homeschooled. Look, this is not about me. I'll tell you offline. We'll go horseback riding. I'll tell you all of it. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Rooted Recovery Stories. I'll remind you now, as I always do, that it's never too late to start loving yourself, and you're always only one decision away from a completely different life. This podcast is brought to you by Promises Behavioral Health. If you or a loved one are struggling with trauma, addiction, or mental health, we are ready to answer your questions and help you take that next step. Call our admission center at 888-648-4098 or visit us online at www.promises.com. Our team is ready and waiting to answer the call for help.